And then I kind of leaned into her and brought a lot more of me to her, which they ended up loving. Always bring yourself, I feel like. Once you bring yourself, you find a lot more about the character.
Well, that even happened on set. Like anytime we were like questioning or overthinking, they'd come up and be like, we hired you.
Yeah.
Because you brought something really important. And at the end of the day, just always reset to what your instincts are and just bring yourself into the character.
I had the opposite experience.
That's what they told me, at least.
Thank you all so much for being here. The show is such a delight. I wanted to start by asking, what is all of your relationship to Grease, the musical, the movie, Grease 2, etc.?
Well, strangely enough, I feel like a lot of actors that we've met and a lot of theater kids have at one point in their life gotten to do Grease on stage. And we're the random 4 out of that data that did not get to. And so we feel like this is our chance. And we get to originate characters. It's just so fun.
That's so fun. I mean, were you, obviously you've never done it, but were you fans? Was it like sort of in your musical theater DNA?
Oh, yes, it's always been there.
Yeah. Like, you can't not have it, right?
Exactly. It's great. Like, I feel like we knew about the songs even before seeing the film. And then I think most of us probably saw the film before we should have.
I was definitely 7 years old when I saw the film. But, I mean, Marisa and I talk about this. It's all just like over your head. But I saw it when I was a kid. And then I saw it again when I was in high school because I was part of a dance team. And we were doing a musical theater performance. And I was asked to choreograph Summer Lovin', which was fun. I'm like, okay, who wants to be a T-Bird? Who wants to be a Pink Lady? Who has a leather jacket? Because we have to costume ourselves. So that's going to determine what you're going to be. Like, stand to this side there, stand to this side. So I think it's definitely always been something that's kind of been in and out of our lives.
Yeah, I would say the same. I wish I remembered the first time I saw Grease. Like, I feel like everyone has like their like the moment that they saw Grease and it was like such a moment for them. But I feel like I've always just sort of it's like in the water. Like, you know, it's kind of it's like I've been drinking the Kool-Aid since I was born. Like, it's just sort of like, you know, it's just like in the ether. I feel like it's really hard to find someone who hasn't seen Grease.
Yeah, especially as musical theater kids, and we were all that growing up, so it's kind of just always been around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of musical theater, can you tell us a little bit about the audition process? I mean, you're required to do so much in this show, sing, dance, act, everything, you know, that whole musical theater gauntlet. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like sort of getting cast in the show?
Well, everything was conducted over Zoom, which was crazy.
Like entirely.
Did we meet in person?
Yeah. But the original audition that came in, it was you provide a song, and then there's no dance audition at first. Just the song, and then you do the scene, and then the callback usually was they give you a specific song, and then you would sing that song, and they'll give you a dance, and you had to learn the dance from a video and take a video of yourself. And a lot of people did it in hotel rooms because they were traveling and just everywhere.
Yeah, and then from there, it was callbacks over Zoom. I had a session where we workshopped the character and we brought back something completely different to the producers. Yeah, like 180. Like, we made Nancy super quirky and kind of like new girly in the beginning. And then it was like, can we bring her back and make her a little more like Aubrey Plaza? Like, wear a different outfit, change your hair. And then it was like, let's find something in between that and just exploring the character. And then it was test after test after test after test. And as we got really close, I had a Zoom session with Justin Tranter and Annabelle Oakes.
No pressure.
Oh my gosh. I know. And they said, just prepare 2 songs, prepare the song that we assigned you, and then another song of your choosing. But as the actor, you have to be prepared, right, for anything. And so I had my little Post-it with other options, and thank goodness, because then they were like, great, can we hear something else? Great, how about something else? Great, what else you got? And I think I sang about 6 to 10 songs.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then, oh, did I never tell you about it? Yeah, it was like, I did a lot to get this role.
You better kill it. Right, that's right.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Well, Tricia, I love that story about sort of finding Nancy. I was wondering if you guys could all talk about like finding your different characters and sort of how that worked in the process, like who these people were, both in the time period and how we sort of see them now.
It's kind of strange because a period piece like this set in the 50s, you would imagine that there's some vernacular that is old school that we don't use these days, like jeepers, all of that stuff. But actually, when we got the material, I didn't sense hardly any of that. It was like really conversational dialogue. And I feel like, actors or even just like creatives in the audience know that some scripts don't flow as easily, which then it's harder to do the audition because then you're like trying to figure out the pacing. And it's so much more fun and just easier when the character's written the way that you speak. And I feel like that was the case with me and Jane, and even just the background, the breakdown of the character. I was like, are there cameras in my house? How well do they know me? Like I've never felt so represented. And so that was my experience, at least. Yeah,
I definitely felt the same with Olivia. Once I read Olivia's description, I was like, that's me. I gotta get it. But at first, I mean, you think of Grace and you think of Olivia, it's very like Rizzo-esque. And so I was like, okay, Rizzo is what I need to be. But then I brought more of myself into it. I looked into like Marilyn Monroe, had that like inspiring me. And then I kind of leaned into her and brought a lot more of me to her, which they ended up loving. Always bring yourself, I feel like. Once you bring yourself, you find a lot more about the character.
Well, that even happened on set. Like anytime we were like questioning or overthinking, they'd come up and be like, we hired you.
Yeah.
Because you brought something really important. And at the end of the day, just always reset to what your instincts are and just bring yourself into the character.
I had the opposite experience.
That's what they told me.
They were like, Tricia, you're so I have like a big theme park background. So I've done a lot with like Disney and Universal Studios. And they're like, we get that you're smiley and that's part of you, but also, I know, right? But also like, Annabella said to me, she said, when I cast you, it's because there was something that was kind of dark as well. And I want you to embrace that and lean into that. And I feel like I've kind of been doing that in my life now, too. Like, maybe it's okay. Maybe you don't have to be sunshine and rainbows. Maybe you can, be that bunny with the chainsaws or the kitty with the knife. And it's okay. But I feel like Nancy was actually really tricky and really a challenge to find. And I mean, we kind of figured that out even just in the process before I got it with all of those Zoom calls. It's kind of like we didn't know really who she was. And I was nervous on the first day of, like, when we were shooting the scene where you see Nancy sitting on the bench and she's sketching, and I was like, who is this woman? We're going to figure it out together. And we kind of did. And I had inspirations to draw from. They were saying, look at these particular actors of the 50s. And we want that dynamic energy. We want her to be commanding. We want her to kind of be like a middle-aged woman in a teenage body. So I kind of leaned into that a little bit. And then I think over the course of it, I found other inspirations to draw from, like Tim Burton characters, Catherine O'Hara, just moments from Schitt's Creek, like all kinds of things. And I just sort of collected it. And there was a particular moment on set where I feel like I found Nancy, and that is in the second episode. And in the script, it said, like, Nancy pops up from behind the couch. And I'm like, all right. Well, the scene that we had just shot before, Alethea Jones, our director, said, you need to be bigger, 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 bigger. And I thought, I'm being so big right now. What else can I do? So I felt terrible. And I'm like, well, I'm ruining the show. So this next scene, I'm going to go as big as possible, and they're going to have to pull me back. So you remember this? Yes. So we're on this couch, and Cheyenne's sitting there, and I'm about to pop up, and we're rolling, and I throw myself over the couch. Like, I physically, like, it's almost like slapstick. And we had to cut because you were like, what? and they're like, maybe too much. But that's what we kept. We ended up keeping that, and that's kind of who Nancy became. And so I was just like, yeah, we're going to bring a little bit of myself, but more of a part that I don't usually show. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally.
All right, that was a lot. You talk
that was great. I'm just gonna stand. I'm just like need to fix my pants. I'm very bad at sitting in chairs, like most gay people. So anyway, speaking of, actually, Cynthia, like so when I saw this role, I immediately was struck by how much she's like a T-bird. I wanted to be a T-word growing up, like really badly. I've since come out as non-binary, a trans person, and I'm also gay. And so I like immediately related to Cynthia in that way, and like her drive and to me her arc has so much to do with like finding where she belongs and like fitting in while also like being different. And obviously we're amongst friends here. All of our characters, don't fit in with the society of the 1950s and Rydell High, like, and Greater California and just the world in our own ways. Like most young people. But it kind of like, I also had just come out as non-binary, like within the year before I booked this. And so I was still like, right before that, I was incredibly feminine. I was like a musical theater girl. I had super long blonde hair. I was like dancing, very cutesy. And I literally jewel tone dress. Yeah, exactly. And it took me a little bit to find the confidence to like be able to express my own masculinity in this role and also in my own life. And so it's been like a really amazing experience to like kind of go for 7 months with people that don't know me. I was like very quiet in high school and college. Like I really had a hard time being myself and like expressing myself. And then these people like only know me as this like super outgoing person.
You'd never know.
You'd never know. So, so that's, I think in a different way, I feel like I kind of found myself through Cynthia in a lot of ways, which is kind of special. Yeah. Aw, thanks.
Oh yeah, waters.
We're all about self-care here. Hydrate.
Were you allowed to bring water in? Sorry.
Well, while everyone's taking a sip, I want to talk. Let's talk about music. Obviously, the music is incredible, but also, there are these astounding production numbers. So I was wondering what went into sort of the prep and process for everything that we see on screen.
It was different from the beginning. They had the first 3 episodes of content written, the songs, they had the dances choreographed. So when we went into pre-production for the first month, we kind of were trying to get ahead of it a little bit and prep for, as we shot on, we would know what's coming next. But then after we made through the pre-prepped material, we're like, all right, we still need to, or the creative team, Justin and Jamal, they were like, okay, we still have to like churn these out and start from scratch. And we were simultaneously like filming the storyline, waiting to learn the dances and waiting to record the songs. And therefore it just kind of like became a insane schedule for them to balance out for everybody. But every scenario was different. There was like a song in episode 2 that we had to perform backwards, which took an insane amount of rehearsals, whereas another song later on in the season might have just had 1 rehearsal. It just depends on what we're trying to accomplish. And there were even cases, we're a really big cast, and most of the time we're all on screen together. Otherwise, there's some of us that are doing scenes ourselves and we can't make it to the scheduled rehearsals. So they would record the rehearsal for us or the run through and send it to us and be like, can you learn off of this? And just a video on our phones. I'd like prop it up in my bathroom counter and like use the mirror in the bathroom. And
honestly, that was part of the audition process.
It was. It made sure. Yeah. They double checked that was something we could do.
You could do that quickly
from the get-go. Yeah, just in case we needed to think on our feet. But theater kids we're used to that, of changing tracks and whatnot. But I think that really built the skill of being on top of the ball and shifting gears a lot. Compared to an onstage production that you're running the same show over and over, the same songs, we would lock in a number and completely move on and be like, all right, that's taken care of. Now something new for 7 months. And I'm just really proud of everybody. It's hard.
And sometimes we lock it in and we think it's locked in. And then, and then it turns out something just isn't quite fitting the way that they want it to. And so then months later you come back and you're dancing in front of a blue screen, and now this choreography that you had learned a certain way, they want to reverse. And I don't mean reverse like do it on the left now, but like physically reverse the motion because it's gonna go forward in the edit. So that was like, hey, we're just going to do this. We're going to pull you real quick for this thing. I'm going to teach you this real fast. Like, we got 5 minutes with you, and then they're going to pull you to set. I'm like, oh, okay.
We did,
yeah, so that would happen too.
Yeah, we did have the best team though. We had Jamal Sims and we had Jeff and Luis, and they were so patient with all of us. And even, I mean, our ensemble is huge, and they were so patient with every single one of us.
Yeah.
And I really feel like they wouldn't make you look bad. Like if you felt like, I don't think that was a good take, they're like, no, it was great for this reason, or you're right, let's do that again. You know, very honest.
Yeah.
I watched a little farther ahead, and like one of the things I love about these numbers is how so not tethered to reality they are, and they are really sort of in tribute to classic movie musicals and musical theater. Do you have a favorite number? Do you have like a one that became your heart?
I don't have, I always say my cheat answer is that every day there's a new favorite, because it's quite impossible to pick a favorite just to stick with. But I like that you picked up on that, because to me, I've always been really impressed with our ability, considering how fantastical the numbers are. They're like, the transitions in and out of them are seamless. I feel like that's something that like musical theater, TV, and film has just always been trying to master, and we don't know how to like go from like, you killed my father someday, and it's like, I don't know, that is really smooth, or but our show was really awesome about making it feel, considering how unnatural it was to break out in a song, making it feel really natural.
I think my favorite to watch is New Cool. I watch it all the time, and it is incredible.
Thank you.
But I think, like, filming wise, my favorite was doing Good Girl Act, because that was the only number that we got to do from start to finish, like all the way through. Because every other one is in different rooms or different parts of the room, but we had to get one big wide shot. So they were like, all right, we're going to do one more. This is the last take of the night. And I was like, all right, everybody, it's closing night. It's closing night. We got to do this right, perfect. And we did. It was so much fun.
Party.
Yeah, it was a big party.
I remember that day, like the crew was like smiling. Everyone was like, this was the best day on set ever. And it was like, and for us, it was like, yeah, it's the best day ever on set. And it's like day 5 of us being on set. Like we and Cheyenne were both really only did theater before this.
Yeah, this is our first TV gig.
Yeah, these two have a little bit more. I mean, honestly, I feel like that was the biggest challenge for me, at least, was like figuring out how to do a musical in a completely different medium. Like when you're singing on stage, you're singing live. And when you're dancing for a stage musical, you have weeks of practice. And then whenever you're acting to the back of the house. Whereas on film, it's like you're acting 4 inches away from your face to the back of the house. Like it could be in the sky. You don't even know. And for singing, you pre-record it. You have to lip sync it. And for dancing, like everyone was saying, like you have to show up on the day and be able to sort of like figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so it was definitely a huge challenge to do that, but I feel like now we could all kind of teach like a master class on like musical theater acting for the film, or for TV and film. So it's fun.
Can I take your master class? I want to take yours after New Cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I wanted to ask a little bit about sort of getting into the spirit and the style and of, a Grease project, and that sort of comes down to the costumes. What was it like sort of inhabiting the world of these costumes? And then obviously, in addition, you eventually, obviously don't see in the first episode, put on those pink lady jackets.
Oh yeah, our fairy godmother, Sam Hawkins herself, went above and beyond with the period costumes, and each piece we had was either made from complete scratch or found straight vintage, and therefore
That means we don't have doubles.
Right, duplicates, which, in film, you always have to have in case you spill something or it rips, and these fabrics are really fragile. And so they're like, all right, dance, but like, don't move. Like, all right, we'll do our best. And it really helped, I think, get into the character even more. Like half of this stuff we would not wear today, and it just pulled out like the alter egos of each other. But with the Grease world, something that we were working on was we really wanted to have the same flavor, the same tone, the same genre of that familiarity that we know without obviously like ripping as a complete copy paste. But a lot of that had to do with what we call Grease energy.
Described your Grease energy.
Yes, yeah. You want
We did not give the Grease energy when we said Grease energy.
No, ready? Try it again. Ready? Grease energy.
Too much, though. That might be like too much.
All right, let's
We
got
went
it
from
done.
0 to a 10.
overcompensated.
Grease energy is it's not too much, but it's not natural either. It's both. It's like it's heightened, but it's also grounded. It's kind of that. It's honestly really hard to find because you're like, okay, we're not doing a musical on stage in a giant Broadway house, but we're also not keeping it super, up close either. So it's just making sure that it stays real and truthful, but it's a little bit heightened.
I feel like a lot of it has to do with pacing of the scene too. Like if it lags, then it's like, oh, it's the energy itself is being brought down. And so Alethea was really adamant about hopping on each other's lines and making the conversations just feel more real in that way.
Also, our ensemble was insane.
Gosh,
and every
incredible.
time they said Grease energy to them, it was amazing. And we were like, all right, we got to match them because it's so good.
We changed the subject a little bit, but I do feel like you had something really great to say in the New York Times article about wearing like the 50s clothes and taking on Olivia. Do you remember what you said? I read it this morning, so I can tell you.
Can you pull up the article?
about the putting on the clothes and like walking down and like
Oh, yeah, you got to start the Olivia walk. Just do it. It's on, and you got to do it. This is what I said. I don't know what I said.
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly those words.
You probably said something about like the fact that when you put on the costume, you become the character, right?
Yes,
maybe,
yes,
or maybe it gives you the confidence. For me, like Nancy is so unlike who I am. We are just completely different. And I feel like because of her outfit, I was able to take on the persona and the stance. And Nancy wears so many different things. You'll get to see if you watch our show. Plug. And like we had talk about costume fittings. Nancy is all about fashion, so she is showing up to school. She and every outfit was so different, but it was like you could tell that would bring something like some kind of confidence out of me for sure. And Sam and all of our designers were so collaborative, and it was really exciting to be there and to feel like you were part of the process too. Like she was like, "Hey, what other ideas do you have for Nancy? Like, can we have a cat outfit? Can we, what snake would you like for this outfit? We have these 3 different kinds. Do you like this one, this one, this one? Like, can I add rhinestones to it?" But then also because it's the 50s, and these costumes aren't things that you would wear every day, they're restrictive too, right? So sometimes Nancy she has like a bad Nancy moment that she goes through, and she's wearing this tight skirt, and they're like, "Okay, so can you duck behind this door real quick and then pop up, and then we need you to push the door to close it." I'm like, "Okay, let me see if I can." Nope, we can't do that. This is gonna rip, and it's a one of a kind. So, and I ripped a lot of costumes, so this is a valid warning. So then what I did was
Demonstrating.
So, all right. So imagine me. Gosh, I hope I don't hurt myself. I'm like very accident prone.
Careful.
So I like did this sort of a thing, and I was like, I did it lower. So I was like way down there, and then I was like underneath the window, and Alethea comes over just to check on things. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing what you said." Like, are we rolling yet? But like, it's things like that you don't see. Like, you never know that that's happening. You just see me pop up and shut the door. But like, you're doing all this training in school, and you're like, why am I doing a grand plie for 3 minutes, like slowly down to the floor? It's because of stuff like that. Like, truly, like you're gonna have to support yourself on one arm for a solid 3 minutes because the scene's long. But so yeah, I just wanted to shine a light on the things that people are doing to make this stuff happen.
Do your planks, everyone.
Well, have to wrap up pretty soon, but I did want to finish by asking, the show is exploring a lot of stuff through the prism of this Grease energy, exploring sexism and gender identity and all of these different topics. And I was wondering what that was like for you, sort of, taking on these subjects that really matter today, but also giving us that Grease energy.
It's such a good question. I think about this a lot. And in the car here, I was like writing in my little notebook thinking about this. I feel like we have a really cool opportunity with this show to sort of watch young people from the perspective of young people, what it's like to kind of learn from the world what your place is. Like all of our characters, the four of us and the rest of the cast, all of us sort of haven't fully given into the roles that were ascribed, like in the white supremacist cis heteropatriarchy. And you sort of see these young people like not like really be able to dare to dream, to like, Cynthia wants to be a T-Bird. She doesn't know that that's necessarily like a bad thing or like a wrong thing. And then she does learn that, and it's devastating. And I think the same thing is true for all of our characters. Like, each, like you and your sister both have like a really interesting perspective of like racism and stuff.
Relationship with our culture and trying to understand. It's so simple. It's like, why do people treat people differently? Like, it doesn't make any. It's so pure. It's so innocent. I do agree. I think that each of our characters has like something on the other side of a wall. Mm-hmm. And it's just like not accessible for us. And we're like, but like, where's the key? Like, why do I even need to be accepted in order to be who we want to be? And I can tell you right now that like I was so excited to get the script for every episode, because I would read it and be so truly affected by the material as like just an audience member of the script. And it's a big responsibility to talk about these things, but they're not new things. They're just things that people tend to avoid to talk about, and they need to be talked about. So we're doing that, but through song and dance.
I'm super excited for little girls and boys to see themselves in this show. There's so many storylines, so many story arcs, so many different characters, and also the people and fans of the original Grease who didn't get to see themselves in the original movie. As a little girl, I've always wanted to see someone with the color of my skin on the screen being a lead and like just singing her face off, doing all these things, being powerful. And I'm so honored, and like, it's a little scary, but it's such an honor to be in this position. Just to show that it can happen. Yeah. Sorry.
Ditto.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. This was
Thank you. Thanks for having us. So fun.